Hey guys, I've had some pretty crazy adventures traveling to every country in the world by the time I turned 21 years old. The story I'm about to tell you is one of very many wild experiences I had over the past few years, and I'm actually writing a book about those experiences from every country. When you sign up for my newsletter, you can receive a free preview of 3 chapters from my upcoming book. They're stories from Yemen, Nigeria, and Laos. Check the link in my description or go to lexielimitless.com/newsletter to receive that preview. I'm excited to share this story with you guys because it's definitely one of the more unique and honestly pretty funny stories I have from traveling alone, but please stick around to the end of the video, especially if you are a solo female traveler, so that I can explain some of the really important learning lessons I gained from this experience. It was around 9:30 p.m. when I finally reached the city of Petra in Jordan. I was exhausted from a full day of traveling from the capital city Amman around the Dead Sea to Petra, but once I arrived, I realized it was one of the nights where they have the Petra By Night light show, which is where they project lights onto the Treasury, which is the largest attraction inside of Petra. Everyone at the hotel, including my driver, told me that I was too late to go to the show because it supposedly started at 9:30, but I had a major fear of missing out, so I decided to just grab my running shoes and my camera bag and run down to the entrance to see if there's any way that I could still get in, because this would be the only night that I was able to see this amazing once-in-a-lifetime experience. So I ran down to the entrance gates and the guard told me there was no way that I could buy a ticket because it was too late, but after some pleading, he decided to look the other way and let me in. It was a new moon that night and the stars were just glowing across the sky. They had placed these candles inside of glowing paper bags and placed them every 6 feet or so on each side of the trail leading into the middle of the desert. I had absolutely no idea how far away the Treasury was, and I was completely on my own. I was sprinting into the desert, and the only sound I could hear was the sound of my feet hitting the sand. And as I kept running and running, the canyon walls started getting higher and higher around me, to the point where when I looked up, I could barely even see the stars anymore. But by the time I made it through this whole winding canyon, I started hearing voices and there were still these beautiful candles lighting my way, and as soon as I turned a corner, I ran into this guy who turned around and told me to slow down, not to worry, that I hadn't missed anything. He showed me to a seat where I had perfectly made it in time to see this incredible lights show where they project the Treasury with all of these different colors and have these beautiful symphonies playing and echoing around the canyon walls. It was definitely one of the most surreal travel moments that I've ever had. After the show, the man who I had initially ran into in the canyon started to tell me about himself. He was a tribesman who was actually born in one of the caves near Petra. He couldn't read or write, but he could speak 5 languages because he worked at a trinket shop across from the Treasury. He looked exactly like Jack Sparrow with this long hair and beads and a red bandana and even the same black eyeliner. And once the show was over, he noticed that I had a camera with me and asked if I wanted to take some photos from the most perfect view of the Treasury while the lights were still there. Of course, I was a bit hesitant, but considering there were so many people around, I weighed the risk versus the reward and followed him, and he led me up this invisible path up to these cliffs where you could look down on the Treasury. And by the time we made it up there, it was past midnight, which was my 20th birthday. So in a way, this felt like looking down on the most beautiful birthday candles I could have ever dreamed of. We stayed up on the ledge until we were the last people there, besides his cousins, who were the ones in charge of picking up all the candles. By the time we climbed down, we were in complete darkness, and he offered to give me a ride back to my hotel on his donkey, or as he called her, his Jordanian Ferrari. Laughing at the randomness of this situation, I decided to hop on the donkey and we rode through the canyon. The stars were becoming even brighter now that there weren't any candles lighting the way, and the hooves of the donkey were echoing through the entire canyon. Then this guy started serenading me with one of the most beautiful, enchanting songs I've ever heard. You could hear these nomadic Arabic influences in his voice, and I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had as a solo traveler. He left me at my hotel and we agreed that he would show me the real Petra the following morning at 5 a.m. When I originally planned this trip to Jordan, I assumed that I would spend my entire 20th birthday alone. But true to his word, he came riding back on his donkey to my hotel in the morning and took me to so many incredible places. This is the most exhilarating part of travel because you literally have no idea what's going to happen next. One minute you're absorbing the changing landscapes and reflecting on your personal life, and the next you're completely immersed in another person's worldview. I went to Petra knowing nothing of its history or way of life, and I left having had a glimpse of what it was like to grow up there. I went to the cave that my friend lives in and met his grandmother. I saw how interconnected the Bedouin community is, where they share everything from their cigarettes to their Ferraris. And I wouldn't have experienced any of that if I hadn't been late to the Petra By Night show. He never asked me for money, but he gave me hours of his time because he genuinely wanted me to experience his home. He didn't even ask for my phone number or social media because he doesn't even have a phone. Over the years, I've developed a strong sense for detecting people's intentions, which has been such an important thing to avoid being taken advantage of, especially as a solo traveler. That being said, even though my experience with this Bedouin character was a positive one, he was respectful and never asked me for anything inappropriate, unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for all solo female travelers in this area. After doing some digging online, I learned that there are actually some Bedouins in Petra who are considered professional romance scammers who tell these kind of stories and provide amazing experiences to solo female travelers in hopes of hooking up with them or asking them to send a lot of money once they leave, or even convincing these women that they're in love and that they're going to get married in exchange for obtaining potentially a foreign visa. When you're traveling, unless you are looking to hire a guide and you agree upon a price beforehand, never give someone money or send someone money that you met while traveling. I've read these terrible stories of men proposing to these women and manipulating them by saying they only will need a couple hundred or even a few $1,000s to leave Petra and start their lives together. Whenever you're in a position where you make a good friend while traveling, or you're in this romantic situation with someone, it's never a good idea to put yourself into debt, because you never know, it could end up being a scam. This is a great example of why it's so important to do research about a new place before you travel there. To be honest, I was being a bit reckless when I was spending time with that guy who I had just met alone at night, and in retrospect, I'm very lucky that nothing bad happened. If you want to hear more stories and learning lessons like this from traveling to every country, don't forget to sign up for my newsletter in the description and receive a free preview of my upcoming book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you next week.